Yes, so my name is Rasmus, and again, thank you a lot for inviting us to this meeting, and we're excited to tell you about our findings of this project. So yes, I'm Rasmus, and we are students from Sahlgrenska University School of Entrepreneurship. We all have different backgrounds, from engineering to psychology, which is really fun to get different perspectives on the same problem. And we've been working with this project together with Ulla since the beginning of September, and it's been really great to learn both about the diabetic foot, but which was a very unknown problem to us, and also how the healthcare sector works in the sense of how innovations are implemented, and also get an insight into how to navigate the bureaucracy in the healthcare system. And we have a video link that you may see or may not, but it's just an introduction to the problem that we have showed to our class. And now we'll go on to quite brief present the problem and need. As a foundation for the project, there is no standardized regulation of how to examine the feet of diabetic patients, and this gives space for a subjective interpretation of what to include in the foot examination. In turn, the diabetic patient can be placed in the incorrect risk classification, receive the wrong or miss out on the correct aid, and later develop diabetic foot ulcers. So the need is therefore to implement a standardized system like DFOOT to ensure an equal healthcare. The fundamental challenge in our project has been how to implement DFOOT as a standardized method within Swedish healthcare. In the implementation process, we have identified two major considerations. First is bottom-up driven innovation. So from the data gathering, which was mainly interviews, we realized how difficult it is to impact the healthcare system on a higher level. You must start from the bottom. Creating a mutual interest in regional and national implementation is very important to affect the key decision makers. And regarding the healthcare environment, it is a pressurized system characterized by long waiting lists, time pressure, and people used to following a certain workflow. A big challenge has therefore been to take the different parts of the healthcare environment into consideration when evaluating how to fit a new system into this complex environment.
So before we dive into our suggested solution, we would like to talk about how our process has been up until now. In the beginning of the project, we identified the different stakeholders in relation to DFOOT, and we found a lot of different parties that could be relevant for the project. For example, we have, of course, Cerner with the Millennium system, but also primary care centers, patients, and non-governmental organizations, and so on. So early on, our goal was to gain as much insights as possible from all the different stakeholders, but we soon realized that it was more efficient and beneficial to limit ourselves a bit more towards orthotists. And this is because we figured that orthotists are the ones that will use DFOOT initially. In our data gathering, we conducted in total 11 interviews, and those were with people from different types of professions, but primarily orthotists then. And here it was really interesting, since the key insights that we got from the interviews was mainly that people mentioned that there's a need for a more standardized system to assure a good examination without feeling that they might miss out on important part. So there is actually a true need for something more formal in the examination process. Other interesting mentions was also that people mentioned the need for a tablet in the patient room to avoid any clumsiness and so on with big computers. We also conducted a simulated foot examination, and this was to really get into the picture of how an examination is executed. This is a short summary of our process when it comes to identifying what the problem really is. We have, during these weeks, along with the interviews, shifted focus a couple of times. In the beginning of the project, we for example, thought that the ergonomic situation needs to be improved in order to make other orthotists use DFOT. But then we shifted focus and thought that the most crucial thing to solve is the compatibility issue with Millennium. And this is, of course, a crucial thing to solve. But since Millennium won't arrive for another 3 years from now, we thought that there must be something we can do in the meantime. So, for example, we realized that it's crucial to spread awareness about DFOT and to keep connecting to these enthusiasts and eldsjälar, and not try to affect the political healthcare system from the top, but instead promote a bottom-up driven innovation. So during our project, we have used 8 different tools in a process that is called design thinking. And we will just go through them briefly to give a picture of what we have worked with. So initially, in the first weeks, we focused on the current situation without exploring any solution beforehand. So in this phase, we did a lot of investigation of how the real journey of a foot examination looks like. And from that on, try to identify the real problem in mind mapping and value chain analysis. So from the journey mapping, we moved into brainstorming with a focus of how to actually spread awareness about DFOT. And in the end, we managed to come up with 3 concepts, and those we will show you soon. In the last phase, and the last tools helped us to understand which of the concepts to move forward with, and how also these concepts could be visualized in nice prototypes. So from the 8 tools that we have displayed, we came up with 3 concepts that we think needs to be focused on in order to get DFOT implemented. And that is branding, software, and ergonomics. But since these concepts are quite comprehensive and wide, we try to narrow it down to only one major focus. And this ended up in our suggested future solution, which we will show you now.
Yes, so based on the concepts, next slide, please. So based on the concepts, we have come up with the suggested future solution. So all in all, we have identified one major focus that we think you should focus on, and that is branding of the DFOT. With branding, we don't necessarily mean branding in a product selling way, but rather selling the idea of DFOT as well as creating an identity for the whole project. We mean having DFOT as a brand to point at and be proud about having as a point of reference when spreading awareness. As discussed before, we really see a need of a bottom-up driven implementation path in order to actually make key leaders understand the need of the solution. So our branding solution is divided into 3 different phases, including software updates, spreading of awareness, and future improvements, then in relation to the ergonomic situation. So when it comes to software updates, we have looked into the multi-device compatibility. And that is one major aspect that we see in relation to the software is then to make it multi-device compatible so that clinicians can choose the device they prefer the most. So from the data gathering, we got both insights into how the preferred way of working is, and the majority of orthotists see that the tablet could be helpful. And then another software updates is in relation to the web page, because when reaching out to potential users, it will be beneficial to have an easily oriented website with accessible information about DFOT and contact information to key individuals or some type of information mail. The website will then function as a point of reference for users talking about the program with other potential users, thus like spreading the word. So we suggest that the user interface should look nice and clean and be easy to understand. At the website, external clinicians should easily be able to understand what DFID is and how to get access to it. Features such as why DFID, information about diabetes and feet, about the team and the DFID journey, a brochure for downloading, and a news blog could be included to portray a professional solution. Furthermore, one suggestion is to tell the background story of the project as well as the software, and actually include clean pictures of the people involved in order to give a more personal touch. And it will also be nice to include clear contact information to easily connect with DFID. We see that as beneficial for both people interested in starting to use the program, as well as already existing users. The webpage could be both in Swedish and English, and easily change, for example, through a button in the top right corner or at the bottom of the page. And in phase 2, we think it's important to highlight the spreading of awareness that is highly linked to the bottom-up driven implementation. We believe that we need to spread awareness about the problem to the right people. And this could be done through fairs by handing out brochures and discussing with other clinicians working in the same field, or on social media such as Facebook through campaigns and groups. What also is crucial in this branding phase is to find other enthusiasts that also are passionate to drive this question further. In addition, it will be important to find external individuals that can push this topic in other geographical locations as well. And the last phase, the least urgent one that we see for now, that can actually take place more when DFID is somewhat implemented. It is like about the ergonomic situation has been like a known issue for us throughout the project, but we interpret it as not the major hinder for implementation. But in regards to this, the ergonomic situation can be improved in means of investing in new adjustable equipment. Just for example, facilitate the measurement of the foot's angle down at the floor. Also to create this toolkit that the clinicians can have to carry the necessary equipment. So with this said, we really enjoyed the experience of working with DFID, and hope that our work will contribute to the implementation of it. And we hope to see DFID as a part of the healthcare as soon as possible.
Thank you very much. Oh, here we go on. I thought it was the final one, but here we have another one. So please explain this interesting thing.
Yes, we also created a poster, which is part of the branding solution, what we say. About spreading awareness. So this poster is mainly targeted at orthotists and the project itself, but it's supposed to be illustrating with the little pictures the potential journey of a professional who is experiencing the problem of an unstructured foot examination, and later finding DFID and finding the benefits of following a set structure, and lastly the professional spreading the word by talking to a colleague. And we are also providing some numbers in the poster to educate about the issue with diabetic foot ulcers.
We consider the numbers very important because the numbers give us like a clear understanding of the general panorama. I think that, I mean, we have talked about this thing and the importance of having the diabetic food examined and everything, but if people don't see it, like, I think that it is, we think that showing it like in this visual way will become important, will send a message that how DFOD can help, and well, that's basically it. You can have the best product or service in the world, but if you don't advertise it, if you don't show it to people, they will never know it exists. So this is basically, as Rebecca said, to encourage to spread the word, to create awareness, right?
Yes.